be so nervous. I so admire you, Bryony, for that. Wow.
About body positivity and all about celebrating us and that there's no one way to look.
Riding centres closing down. The stats that I read on your Instagram, over 250 riding schools have closed since 2018. That's more than 1.5 million fewer opportunities for children and adults to build the indescribable bond with horses.
I think to make it accessible, try not to close them down would be a start. Try raise awareness of how the sport can help you just in everyday life. I think what really helps is things like the Olympics and the Paralympics, I think.
You're listening to the Curious Equestrian podcast, produced by Horsemanship Journal and hosted by me, Anna Louise Claydon. Through this podcast, we delve into the enigmatic world of horses, bringing together trainers, behaviourists and horse owners, each sharing personal stories that deepen our connection with these majestic animals. We unfold diverse stories of horses and their people, stories that inspire, that challenge and transform us. So join as we traverse the depths of equine behaviour and psychology, where curiosity leads the way, and every horse has a tale to tell, enriched by a variety of human experiences and insights. This is the Curious Equestrian. Today's guest is Bry Moss, an actress, model, blogger and paradressage rider. Bryony is a disability and mental health advocate, and she's really passionate about raising awareness of hidden disabilities. Bryony talks openly about living with cerebral palsy, PTSD and anxiety. Last year, she was listed as one of the top 50 influential neurodivergent women for 2023. And is it any surprise, really, when Bryony encourages us all to be ourselves and celebrate what makes us different? Because she says we shouldn't be afraid to be ourselves. In this episode, we talk all about the magic of miniature horses. We talk about making horse riding accessible for all. Bryony tells us about how horses saved her life during a really difficult time, and her hopes and dreams to go all the way to the top in paradressage. Let's jump in, shall we? Bryony, welcome to Curious Equestrian.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Well, we're excited to have you. And first of all, congratulations on all of your huge successes so far. I've loved watching your journey on Instagram and your documentary that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But first of all, for those who don't know you, list off all of your animals and pets that you share life with.
Okay, so I have, well, we joke, it's a little mini farm. I've loved animals all my life and somehow I've turned half my back garden into one. So I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, 1 rabbit, 1 guinea pig, 1 miniature horse, 4 goats, 3 ducks and 4 chickens.
And take us back, when was it when you first fell in love with horses?
So believe it or not, I was actually scared of horses. First time I went on a horse, it was too high up, I was petrified. And then a few years later down the line, an opportunity came for me to try and do horse riding again. And I thought, okay, it didn't happen the first time, that's okay, I'll try again. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And it all kind of started from there, but because I have a disability called cerebral palsy, right hemiplegia, my mum was able to find out about a stables called, with an organisation called Riding for the Disabled Association. So I went on their website, found one of my nearest stables, applied, was on the waiting list. And then, I went for an assessment, didn't want to get on the horse. I was too scared, but I was like, no, we're going to do this. I got on. And then ever since then, absolutely loved it.
It's that feeling, isn't it, of being out of control initially. You are handing your life over to the horse. What was running through your head in that moment?
Just don't fall off.
Hold on!
Yeah.
Oh, and horse riding is hard for every person, physically, mentally, when they're first trying the sport for the first time. What additional challenges, Bryony, did you have to deal with?
Well, at the riding school that I go to, we're actually not allowed to have stirrups. So we have to ride without stirrups because we have to use our core more. So it's like physio for our body. Wow. And looking back on it, like my grandma, before my mum and dad got me, had a horse. So my dad kind of grew up around a horse. And so he's done riding and he's like, I don't know how you do it without stirrups. And like, I now say to people, I don't know how you do it with stirrups. I speak to my friends now and they're like, yeah, we tried riding without stirrups, we just fell off.
As a lot of people do when you hear about them bareback riding. Because they say that your stirrups are like your seatbelt.
Yeah.
But you don't have that
No.
support. So what does it feel for you? What's that feeling like when you're in the saddle?
Ooh. Well, I find that it really depends, like, on your horse. If you know your horse really well, that amount of trust is very, very important. If it's like a new horse, I feel a bit more anxious because, like, obviously you don't know like their personalities and what they like get scared of and things like that, and how they can be quite stubborn sometimes. So yeah, I think it like varies from horse to horse, but generally I've had some pretty good, like very positive, not very negative experiences.
And I never thought of being in the saddle as physio. How does it help your body?
So for me, for physio, it helps learning with balance. Because of my cerebral palsy, my hamstrings are quite tight and my body's quite tight. So being on the horse and letting the horse give me that motion that it does, the rocking, but having to be still with your core really helps me to stretch out all my ligaments and things like that.
Wow. And what was it that drew you to try riding again? Considering the first time you were petrified, what was it that made you rethink?
My mum, yeah, she was very supportive. She was like, "Nope, you've been on this waiting list. You're going." And we got there. I'm not going on, mum. She was like, "No, you are." I was like, "I'm not." And then she was like, "Go on just once." And then after that, I was like, "I want to come back every single day."
Oh. And why do you think your mum was so encouraging for you? Why did she want you to be around horses and start riding?
Well, it's kind of interesting because my mum doesn't come from like a horsey background. My mum's always had this like thing ever since we've grown up. Just try everything, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You don't know if you don't try. And she knew I would like it because I tried it before. It was just that anxious waiting, like, oh god, I'm gonna get on this pony. I've never met them before, and I've new experiences, new people. And she was just like, give it a go. And that's kind of what she always tells us, even now, even to my sister, who's not disabled, and she's 22 now, and I'm 25, and she's like, no, give it a go. Or like, I still ask her now, actually, like, Mum, should I try it? And she's like, yeah, try it.
Do you think that's helped you in every aspect of life and riding?
Yeah, it's given me the confidence. I don't think I'd do half the things I do if I didn't have that kind of attitude growing up from my mum.
And how long have you been riding now, Bryony?
Well, I'm 25 now and I started when I was 9 years old.
Oh,
So
wow.
I've been riding for a long time.
So how would you say, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we all have limited childhood memories. Our sort of capacity to remember kicks in at different times. But can you remember life before riding and then life after riding and how it changed you?
So that's an interesting one because I would say I was diagnosed late with my cerebral palsy. So, but I was around like year 2, so I think that's 6 or 7, something like that. And before then, I had loads of friends, and then as I grew up and I told people I have a disability, people didn't want to be friends with me anymore. So it was kind of the switch. But I always found that like horses, during my time of school, because I was badly bullied and I went through mental health conditions and stuff, they kind of became my best friend. Like they're there for you, and they don't judge you for you. They don't judge you on things, and it's, I don't know, they kind of made me feel safe, and it kind of gave me that one place where I could just breathe and forget about everything else.
And do you think the horses understood in a way? Do you think that you have a special connection to horses where they understand the extra challenges that you've had in your life?
Yeah, I love it. I think we don't give them enough credit. Horses are very wise. and they know how to push your buttons and what to do to push, like, oh, I want that apple. And I'm like, because I now have my own miniature horse, Lola, and I wouldn't have had her if I didn't go to the RDA. And she knows exactly when I'm sad, or when she knows she can try and be cheeky, or, oh, I know, I'm going to be really cute and ask for an apple. And Mum's like, don't give her the apple. And I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, so tell us about Lola and why you chose a miniature horse.
So, I've always wanted a horse. Ever since I started like riding, it's always been my dream to have a horse. And over lockdown, with college, I went on a work placement course, and I went to someone that I knew. He owned a mobile farm, and so I thought I'll go there, do work there, and then I got to know Lola through them. And then he said, okay, I'm actually going to sell her. I can't keep her. And I was like, would you sell her to me? So he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'll just talk to my mum and my dad. So I went home, I rushed up to my mum and dad, went, we need to get this miniature horse. And I was like, what are you on about? Like, he's selling the miniature horse. I need the miniature horse. And yeah, so it was a bit of umming and ahhing. And then eventually he was like, okay, I'm going to talk to your mum directly because I don't trust you. So there was this one day, and we had no water, and my mum was coming to see Lola, and she was covered in mud, and we couldn't hose her down or anything, and I was literally using wet wipes, like baby wipes, and wiping her down, trying to make her look all nice. And my mum's coming, and I'm like, look, mum, you want to get this, don't you? You want to get this horse? And then I'm just like, somehow, I still don't really know how I managed it, but yeah, I managed to get her. And I think half of it was also to do with the fact that I already knew her. And actually, I didn't know that a miniature horse existed before I saw her. I knew miniature ponies did, but I never heard of a miniature horse. So I was like, wow, this is amazing.
They are incredible. And I say this as someone who's got 2 miniature horses myself. And like you, I've had a passion for horses since I was a tiny child. And there is something special about a miniature horse, isn't there? And the way they communicate and their personality. What joy has Lola brought to your life?
She keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
Definitely keeps me on my toes. I know she brings a smile to my face every single day. It's really interesting because obviously I can't ride her, so people are like, so what's like the difference? Yeah. And I think it's totally different connection. Like when you're in the saddle working with a horse, it's a very like, we're doing work now kind of relationship. Let's see what we can do. With her, it's a lot about like trust and doing a lot of like groundwork. So I might like do, you know, in and out of cones, or just getting her to come to me, calling her and trusting her. But yeah, she's just a cheeky little monkey, and I don't actually know how I've managed to do life without her beforehand.
Oh, they're very intelligent, aren't they? In America, they use American miniature horses as therapy ponies, and they take them all across the board to hospitals, care homes, schools, to support people. And I think it's because they've got that intuition.
Yeah, I mean, before I got her, that's what the farm used to do. It's just he had to give her up over lockdown because she just found it a bit too overwhelming because she was too young at the time. But over the years that I've like worked with her, now have her, the amount of care, like caring side to her, is just coming out more and more and more. And she knows when someone's not okay. She becomes really gentle. She does bite occasionally, but it's mainly me she bites.
I know the feeling. And they're on that level, aren't they? The pocket level. And they use in America. I think America always are slightly ahead of us in certain spheres with horses. They also use them as guide horses. Over here, obviously, guide dogs are dominant. But the thinking in America is that guide horses, they live longer and that the owner can have them in service for longer, which I think is phenomenal.
My dad showed me a video of that, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then I was like, we need to move to America.
Yeah. It's actually recognised over there. Imagine over here, sort of taking your guide horse into the library.
I was like, imagine taking her on a plane.
Oh my gosh. And I imagine this is all things we'll be doing in the future. And I imagine along the pavements we'll see guide horses as the main companion.
Because they are very intelligent. and they're very lovable. I think once you've grown that connection with them, they trust you, and then they'll do anything.
And I don't know if you find this, but miniatures, Shetlands, all get sort of a bad reputation. Oh, they're a nightmare. Oh, they're aggressive. And I won't use other words that people use to describe them. But actually, when you can get to know the miniatures and their individual characters, you realise how ferociously intelligent they are.
Yeah, because before we got Lola, my mum was like, "Well, if you're going to get a horse, it's not going to be a Shetland horse." Even I know that they haven't got like very, like then just not haven't got a good like word to their name. But she never knew about a miniature, and I was like, "Well, we'll just try see what happens."
What's the worst that can happen? And then get that miniature horse in your garden. Bryony, can you share with us a memorable moment or a special connection that you've had with a horse?
Oh, special moment. I'd have to say it was probably be the first time I was able to ride a Paralympic horse, which was called he was called Lambrisco. He was the most gentlest little giant, well not so little, in the whole entire world. He was a grey. He he was amazing. He only like died last year. But it was weird, like he'd be so cheeky in lessons, but at the same time he'd listen. But then when you took him to an arena and he saw people were watching him, it would just be like game face, game time, I'm gonna win. And it was weird because every single time he did something, he won.
Wow.
And you didn't have to do much; you just had to like use your body, and he'd just do it, and it'd be like, oh my gosh, like he was an incredible horse to ride. And for the first time I rode him, I was like, these horses are at like Paralympic level, seriously trained to like perfection.
Wow. So how did the opportunity arise that you could ride him?
So I go to Staffbox RDA, and they are the biggest RDA centre out of all the centres that the RDA nationally have, and they train Paralympic athletes. So we've had Sophie Christensen, we've had Natasha Baker, we've had loads. We've even got some now. I'm not like 100% sure on their names, but yeah, we've been able to ride. So when in the Paralympics, a horse called Rio was taken out there. I got to ride Rio, Lambrisco. We got one called Athena. She's going to be doing the up and coming Paralympics, so that's going to be amazing. But
So you get to test drive them.
yeah,
And tell us about your dressage tests for anyone who hasn't seen para dressage.
so like I explain paradressage as it's like dancing with your horse because you're doing movements to music, and they're quite a lot of circles and like serpentine, so they're kind of like wiggly in and out. For someone who doesn't know, that's the best way I can describe it. I used to call it the snake move.
Yeah, snaking around the arena.
So yeah, so I've done regionals and nationals, and then I'm hoping to get paragraded, so I'll be able to compete in more dressage competitions and go higher up. I never actually thought like I've heard of jumping with horses, and I've heard of like racing horses, but I never knew about dressage. So that was like a really like nice thing for me to find and me to like. I was just like to my coach, no, I love dressage. I'll stick to dressage.
And what do you think it is about dressage that really drew you in?
I think it's the bond you have to have. It's a completely different type of bond because you're getting them to do such quick and small movements. So you've got to be able to give them those signals with your legs, with your core, quickly. But they've also got to do it gracefully and not be like dunk, because sometimes I've seen, well, I don't do jumping, but my friends just say, yeah, my horse can jump, but the way he lands is just like boom. Whereas this is all meant to be light. And people think, oh, that's easy to do. It's not easy. When people say to me, oh, horse riding's easy, all you do is sit there, I'm like, no.
I don't know where or why people say this who haven't had anything to do with horses. What is it in their minds that make them think that sitting on the back of a beast is easy.
At school, everyone used to be like, "Well, that's easy. I could do that." I was like, "No, it's not easy." So all of us equine girls would be like, "No."
You try it then.
Yeah.
You go and sit in the saddle.
Yeah.
Wow. So that moment that you thought, I want to try dressage, what was that like for you?
Magical. Yeah, it. I don't know. It's just like opens up like a whole new world.
And what are your hopes with dressage, Bryony? How far do you hope to go?
Well, ideally, I'd like to go all the way up to the top. But yeah. So now I'm gonna get paragraded. So hopefully I'll be able to do international competitions, which will be insane.
And let's talk about your passion and your love for riding schools and for the RDA. So I know that last year you were working with British Dressage on their campaign, all about riding into the future and saving the riding school.
Yeah. So over lockdown, not just RDA, I know one RDA centre did, but just in general, stables in general, they had to sadly close during lockdown. There weren't enough funds to keep them going. So I was basically working with them, trying to let people know basically the advantages of having stables, of having riding schools, giving children and adults of all ages, all abilities, what horses can bring to them to help them with their mental health, just everyday living, because people don't really think like, how can that one sport bring so many elements into my daily life? Because I know some people have said through doing horse riding, they now have structure, which they didn't have before, which has been really useful for them. And I also work a lot with challenging misconceptions around riding, because I'm a South Asian young woman, and people often think of people of my ethnicity not being or having those opportunities to be in the equine world. So I'm trying to say to people, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, you can have these opportunities, and these opportunities we want to see grow. But because of lockdown, more and more stables are being shut. The prices of just a normal riding lesson is insane now. Absolutely insane. And I have loads of people say to me, I really want to learn, I just cannot afford it. So it's all about how can we make this sport accessible. There's, you know, where a sport that loves to have new people come in is just trying to find that balance of how to do that correctly.
And how do we do that when all the centres are closing or struggling with finances? It makes it even more difficult.
And the thing is, people forget that horses are animals and they have food bills, they have stabling bills, they have vet bills, and sometimes vet bills, can come as a surprise. Your horse can suddenly become lame. So it's always having backups as well, because I ride one horse, but I have like another backup horse. So if I can't ride that horse for one competition because it goes lame or something happens to it, then I've got another horse to ride.
And what do we do, Bryony, and what needs to be done to protect riding centres and also make it accessible to everyone?
I think to make it accessible, try not to close them down would be a start. Try raise awareness of how the sport can help you, just in everyday life. I think what really helps is things like the Olympics and the Paralympics. I think when people watch that, then they suddenly think, yes, we want to do this sport, we want to give this a go. So as much as, yes, it's very elite what they're doing, being professional athletes, I think they have a lot of power to bring and to show people. Yeah, I think it has got a long way to go, but it will slowly start getting there.
And do you feel responsible to speak out and to do podcasts like this and to use your platform to open up conversations?
Definitely, especially when I have people like message me on like social media, so like on Instagram, they're like, we really want to give this a go, but we have like this disability, or we really want to give this a go, but we don't think we fit what a rider should look like. And I'm like, no, there's no one look or one way. Just like give it a go, fill out a form, try, because a lot of places they can give you like a taster session, which is like a little bit cheaper, just to see if you like it before you like book in a whole load of like riding sessions. So I think it's also like talking to the riding schools and just seeing what's out there.
It's interesting because I learnt to ride at a riding school that was an RDA riding centre. And I got the phenomenal privilege to ride some of those horses, and they were a cut above the rest. All horses are special, but they had the most amazing traits. They were sensitive. They really listened. They could be in tune and pick up on all of your emotions. And they would literally stop if they needed to stop.
Yeah, like I have non-epileptic fits, so I can just have a seizure on the horse, and the horse will literally stop. He'll know I'm having a seizure before I even know I'm about to have it, and he'll just stop and he will not budge. And then he will only walk on when he knows I'm safe. And it's like my mum and dad and the coaches and stuff have all been like, "Oh my gosh, like this is insane that a horse can just do that." But they're so sensitive.
And they're special, and it needs to be celebrated.
I mean, one day I'd love to have my own RDA stables. I would love that. I keep saying to my dad, "That'd be my dream, Dad. That's my dream."
Look, what we were talking about earlier with the riding centres closing down, the stats that I read on your Instagram, over 250 riding schools have closed since 2018. That's more than 1.5 million fewer opportunities for children and adults to build the indescribable bond with horses. And so many people would be lost without the opportunity, without the chance of learning to ride. And they are more than just centres to ride. It's a community, isn't it?
And I think people have this image that is privilege. People that can only ride horses, you know, people that can do polo and even just like show jumping, and it's not, and it doesn't have to be, but it's that image, and we need to kind of break down that image.
That it's a luxury and that you're wealthy if you've got anything to do with horses.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're wealthy, if you live on a council estate. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's all about opening up that conversation.
It's all about opening the conversation, trying to break down those stigmas really that have been kind of engraved into our brain.
100%. Well, we'll be very excited to watch your journey to the top. I'm hoping we'll be cheering you on at the Olympics in years to come, Bryony. And we've got to talk about your beautiful documentary, all about your life, your hidden disabilities, what it's like living with cerebral palsy, PTSD, and anxiety. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing such personal stories. And that must have been really difficult to open up and to let people in. But I think you will give so many people a greater understanding of what you and what others go through in life. How important is it for you to campaign, for you to speak out and to put yourself forward?
Very important. I kind of feel that first of all, I love what I do. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I just don't think there's enough recognition out there. You know, people look at me and they're like, "You're not disabled," or they'll see me put on my blue badge and they'll look and like, "Does she have one?" I think it's just creating awareness. There's so many people in society that have a disability that you will walk past in everyday situations, whether that's going to Costa Coffee or going to Sainsbury's, and you'll walk past them and you won't know they have a disability. It's like today I was talking to one lady, and then at the end of the conversation she told me she was deaf in one ear, and I was like, well, I wouldn't have known that. And it's just opening and making those conversations like aware and more visible. I think there's kind of an image of what disability has to look like in order for it to be disabled, but there's no one way to be disabled.
And you just don't know what people have been through and what people are going through when you come across them.
And also the scary thing is that like I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, anyone can become homeless, and I'm like, anyone can have a disability. You can get that from injury later on in life, and that's growing. That number of people having that happen to them in their life is growing because we've got like the population more elderly people, things like that.
Yeah, and they can come on at any time. Not everyone is born with a disability, and it's so important that we talk about that in case someone is diagnosed with a condition later on in life, so that also they don't feel fear.
Yeah, I think I also did because I felt quite alone during my whole being diagnosed with everything, and I wasn't expecting any of this sort of stuff to happen. The things that I'm doing now, I just thought, okay, I'm gonna write a blog, write about what I'm doing about my life. If one person reads it, helps them, fantastic. I've done what I need to do, but I wasn't thinking it would become something more, but I'm so happy it has. And I think it's kind of weird because social media, we're kind of told all about oh, it's bad and it's this and it's that. But I've met some incredible people, made some incredible friends through social media, and I don't think I would have met them if I hadn't have started sharing my journey.
It's so interesting. We were talking earlier, weren't we, about how social media's got this reputation of being addictive and it takes us away from life and it's distracting. But actually, we can make some incredible connections with people on there that we may have never met in life, that live all over the world and that have shared experiences or shared connections and communities. I mean, we step outside our house. Those who have a community in a pub or in a library or, in a community space or club are very, very lucky. But for me, the communities I've found have been online.
I found the exact same thing as well. I've made so many friends through online.
And you've got a platform where you can speak out and share your documentary and share your campaigns. Unbelievable. I mean, I say it's brave, Bryony, but do you feel like it's a choice or do you feel like it's a purpose? Do you feel like you've been born to do this, to speak out, to change thought processes?
See, this is the thing. I do think this kind of quite regularly on a regular basis. Think about this the other day, and I'm like, growing up, there were times I wished I wasn't disabled. I wish I was just normal. But now I'm like, but I've met all these amazing people. I wouldn't have met otherwise. They're going through similar stuff to me. I wouldn't have conversations with you like I am now. I wouldn't be able to do the documentary I made. I wouldn't. None of that would have happened. And I think when you're at school, you try so hard to fit in that, but when you grow up and you leave education, you start to find yourself, and you don't really care what others think because it's you, rather than you having to fit into something that you can't always fit into because you're not considered normal in the system. So I just thought, I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna be me.
Oh, I think it's incredible. And I love that your motto is be you and don't be afraid to be yourself. And how can we do that in our everyday lives, do you think? For those who are afraid of parts of themselves or are nervous to show parts of themselves that they might keep hidden.
Challenge it. Challenge the thought process. So, for example, there's this artist called Sophie T, and she does paintings of female bodies. And she's got a show coming up in London Palladium in April, and she needed models, and she was wanting to bring her paintings to life by painting women. And so they'll be topless, but they'll have covering thong and stuff. And she needed models, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna apply. Not gonna think anything of it. I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna push myself because I have body insecurities. People think I'm a very confident person. I'm not. I might come across as confident, but I'm not. I've still got issues with myself, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna challenge myself. And the other day, I got a phone call. Oh, Bryony, we'd love you to be a model. And I was literally, I didn't know what to say. I was like, what? And I told my mum and my dad, and they were like, wow. I was like, oh my gosh. And thinking about it, I'm a bit scared, but sometimes you've got to do those things, because if you don't do it for you, and if you keep thinking what will other people think, you'll end up doing nothing, and you will just trap yourself. Don't make yourself trap. And the thing is that if people don't like it, as long as it's not like against the law or anything. If people don't like what you're doing, if people don't want to support you, then those aren't your people. And they can be part of your journey, but they don't have to be your whole journey.
That is great advice. How do you think you're going to prepare for the session? Will you give yourself a pep talk? Have you got like sort of something that will pump you up and get you going, ready?
I've no idea yet. I've no idea.
I would be so nervous. I so admire you, Bryony, for that. Wow. That would be brilliant, though. And well done for doing it. Because if we were all too scared, no one would be a part of that exhibition.
All about body positivity and all about celebrating us and that there's no one way to look. And for me, that's really important, also because of my mental health. But I've had friends who have anorexia and stuff like that. So for me to be able to do that for them, it's kind of like I'm being there for them because they might not be able to do it themselves and stuff like that. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm doing this for anyone that's ever thought, oh, I don't really like that about my body. And it's all about celebrating what your body can do and that it's okay to look the way it does. I think there's a lot of pressure now, especially like teenagers, and it's getting more and more, especially with like social media and like influencers. And being an influencer myself, I'm very like wary of what I decide that I can do because I don't want to feed into that. Because that can be kind of a scary place.
Well done for doing what you're doing because it's so important. And I would hate to be a teenager living in this day and age now. It's bad enough having to go through all the hormonal changes, let alone having Instagram in your face. And like you say, the beauty influencers and the pressures aesthetically these days. It's a minefield, isn't it? Oh, my goodness. And Bryony, you've talked us through in the saddle how riding physically is physio for your body, but talk us through mentally. You are a mental health advocate and you talk about having anxiety and PTSD and how you look after your mental health, but how does riding play a part in that?
When I was getting bullied for a number of years, it was my safe space. It's where I could be me. I knew wouldn't be judged. The horses accepted me for me. I've actually written an article for Horse and Hound online, and it saved my life. Like I say to my mum and my dad, I would not be here if it wasn't for the horses and the people at RDA. I would not be here. And they full on believe me and know that. So yeah, without them, that's what I'm saying. People don't understand the power horses can have. They can really help you with your mental health. I mean, so can other animals, but I'm just speaking about horses here. But like the connections and like I feel safe when I'm with them. Even though I'm in the saddle and I could fall off, I just feel safe. They can be sometimes like my best friends. They're like, I get asked, I'm like, who's your best friend? And I'm like, is it weird to say it's a horse?
I'm with you. My best friend is definitely a horse. How do you think they saved you, Bryony? What do you think it was about them? What did they do?
I think it's because they kept me going. They didn't judge me. That was a big thing. They didn't judge me and they accepted me for me. And RDA is all about what you can do. It's not what you can't do. So it was kind of that one place where I could celebrate, okay, I can do this. I can try this. And the more and more I learned about the horse, the more I began to trust. And then the more I began to trust, the relationship between me and my horse grew. And then I just kind of fell in love with it even more.
Is that horses do have a way of empowering us, don't they? And I think it's because they're such huge beasts. If they wanted to kill us in an instant, they probably could. If they wanted to bolt off and leave us for dust, they could. But they choose to be with us. And when we ride them, it's such an empowering feeling that we think we have a connection with these animals. We do. We feel it. And we're able, I don't want to say control, because control has negative connotations, but we're able to guide the horse, move the horse, and work with the horse. And that's an incredible feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, especially like with my mental health, because they've said there's no like proper like cure. So I've had to like find things that like help me with like relieving my anxiety and things like that. And horses has just been one of them. I mean, even just grooming them and just feeling their heartbeat, I just get like, oh, it's just so therapeutic.
The smell. I can't understand people that say, oh, I don't like the smell of horses.
My mum and dad always know. Once I've hugged my horse, I'm like, do you want to hug? And they're like, get away from me, get away from me.
I wish I could bottle it up. It's such a reassuring smell. I mean, I empathise, Bryony, because when I was a teenager, I had terrible anxiety, and it was in the saddle that my mind quietened down and I could think straight and I could forget about what I was worrying about, and all was well. And so I have an incredible feeling when I'm with horses that it does just put everything, all the problems, left at the gate, and it's that quiet time.
I think in a weird way, it kind of empowers you and kind of makes you feel, yes, I can do this. Yes, it's going to be okay. I don't know, they're just magical creatures.
So therapeutic. They do bring such magic to life, don't they? Sometimes I still, even having owned horses for well over 10 years, I still try and pinch myself every day when I think this little herd is mine as much as you can own anything. Well, Bryony, what would you say to someone who wants to start riding, who wants to spend time around horses? Maybe they're listening to this podcast because they have a curiosity and a fascination with equines, but they're too scared to do anything about it.
I'd say like reach out to your local stables. I mean, if you've got a disability like me, you can try like looking up on the RDA national website, see where your local RDA is. Also, I know that the RDA need volunteers to help with the riding session, so you can always volunteer at like your local RDA. Or I even know that some like horse riding stables that aren't RDA, they have days where you can pay and you can own a horse for a day, so you can see what it's like to ride it, to look after it, to be with it, see if you like it. Yeah, talk to people, and don't think any questions too stupid, because I had so many questions before I got Lola as my own. I had so many, and I was like, I don't even care if this sounds stupid, I'm just going to ask it.
We've got to. And we've talked about best friendship in horses as well. Has the world of horses opened up lots of human friendships and connections as well for you?
With the RDA, I'm an ambassador, so I've got to meet loads of other amazing riders and volunteers, and I've made so many new friends. And on social media, there's a whole equine community that I've made friends with, and like miniature horse communities and stuff. So it's like, I'm just like, wow. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, you live in Scotland.
It is like opening up a whole new world though, isn't it? I've met people online that live in America.
Someone the other day, and my mum was like, who are you texting? And I was like, I'm texting my equine friend. She's like, oh, where's she from? And I was like, Canada. Mum's like, Canada.
Amazing, isn't it? I've connected with equestrians in America, and there they are hacking out round the Rocky Mountains, going past these big flowering cacti that have been eaten by tortoises and lizards. And I'm thinking, imagine seeing that on your daily hack. But then they want to experience our quintessentially English country lanes with the green grass and the hedgerows. And you think, isn't it funny what we take for granted and what we'd love to experience? But yeah, it is like getting a snapshot into someone else's life, stepping into their Instagram or DMing each other with the daily happenings. And also important hearing from you as well about the friendships you've made, but changing that reputation of the equestrian community that I think at times, again, it can be labelled competitive, and that the people can be quite difficult, that they're opinionated. Again, to say this all politely, I'm sure you've experienced it the same. People saying, oh, horse people are horrible. Oh, I can't stand livery yards. But actually changing that conversation and saying, I've made amazing horsey friends.
There's this, my coach always says, I don't bite. She always tells people, she's like, I'm not going to bite you, I'm not going to bite you. I'm not going to eat you.
Yeah, because the term coach as well can be quite intimidating sometimes, can't it? Oh, but sounds like, Bryony, you're heading for the top, and we can't wait to watch your journey. How exciting. We'll probably see you one day on the Olympics on TV. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and your relationship with horses and how they've changed your life as well. Absolutely mind-blowing. For those, Bryony, who want to follow your journey and find out more about you, how can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Defeating Disability. Yeah, give me a follow, and more than likely I'll follow you back, because I do try and follow everyone back. Might not do it straight away, but I will try.
Well, Bryony, thank you so much for joining us on Curious Equestrian. For those listening right now, make sure you subscribe to follow for plenty more fascinating discussions. Find us on social media, listen across all podcast platforms, and share the word, spread the word with your friends.